Howdy, and Lord of the Rings. Me and my wife's favorite franchise, like ever. But me and her are very different. She is happy and content just watching the movies and enjoying them for what they are, the greatest movies ever made. So she knows very little about the deep lore. Watch. Hello, honey. Who is Eru Ilúvatar?
Who?
Exactly. You see, I am not so easily satisfied. Many hours have I spent listening to deep lore explanation and browsing countless online web pages. And I thought it would be fun to sit down and bestow all of this complex knowledge upon my wife. Enjoy. Howdy.
Howdy.
Okay, so before we get started, you want to go ahead and tell people your history with Lord of the Rings so they know what you know about it before we get started?
Absolutely.
How old were you when you started watching the movies?
10.
How many times have you watched the movies?
Like 10,000.
So, is it safe to say Lord of the Rings is your favorite movie franchise of all time?
Other than Twilight.
Okay.
I'm kidding. I'm
Okay.
just kidding.
I was like,
Lord of the Rings is way better.
Yeah, and then you also like the Hobbit movies.
Yes, but not as good as Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I think everyone can agree on that.
Yeah.
But the Hobbit movies are still good. And so other than that, other than the movies, other than you played some of the games, but...
I've played the games. I've played Shadow of Mordor, which I loved. What they know.
Yeah.
I played it on here.
I have that
I
video
need to
up.
do another one of those. That was so fun.
Yeah, that was a fun video.
That was so fun. And I was really good at it. You remember I was like, I'm good at this game. And you're like, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And they
then
were like, dang, you're actually kind of good at this game. And I'm like, orc head flies across the... Okay,
I'll put that video in the description, by the way, if you want to watch her brag about being good at Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah, so I started watching Lord of the Rings when I was like 10.
And then me and you watch the movies like every year. Well, we basically treat it like a TV show where we'll sit down and we'll watch like 45 minutes a night.
Yes,
and
or
because,
for cleaning.
Yeah.
We'll just put it on or working out. We'll put it on.
And
We'll put it on when we're eating and when we're peeing and when we're showering and when we're living and breathing.
People think we're very weird.
No, kidding.
Yes, our mini TV in the bathroom playing Lord of the Rings. Okay. We don't want to put... Okay.
I just had this dream like a month ago again. I have it every once in a while. I've had it since I was a kid.
Well, relay the information.
So I had this dream that I'll be like in my house. I'll just look out. I'll just hear those like...
Grunt.
You know, like when they're walking in their armor, the orcs. Yeah. And I'll just be like in my house and all of a sudden the ground kind of shakes a little bit. And I'll like look out the window and that army is like coming towards me and I'm like the only one in the house.
So all that to say, you're a massive fan of Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
But just primarily the movies.
We have met Samwise Gamgee.
Yeah,
we
met him at Comic-Con, by the way.
He is a germaphobe.
Yeah, he had his like hand in front of him. And,
I'm over here like trying to like massage his back.
Don't do that.
And he's like, and his hands in front of him like, do not touch me. No, I'm kidding. No, it wasn't like that.
He was very sweet.
Yeah, he was nice.
But he's a well-known germaphobe, so he was just like standing in the middle of a room with his hands crossed in front of him, letting people go take pictures.
I think he just looked at me and he was like, thank you. And I was like, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you.
Will you carry Frodo?
Yes.
Anyway.
He really was the MVP of
dude, Sam's the best character in the entire series.
He's the reason why the ring got up there.
Anyway, so...
What are we talking about?
I'm going to teach you about Lord of the Rings lore.
Oh, okay.
So all that to say, she loves the movies, but
yes,
she doesn't know any of the deep lore.
I love the movies, but I don't know any of the back stuff.
If I start rambling about a whole bunch of stuff, just silently stare at me, and I will move on to the next thing. Yeah, just stare at me and I'll move on. Anyway, so let's get started. Ready? I'm going to explain to you all of the very deep, complex stuff that you were not going to find anywhere near the movies, all right? So, what better place to start than the beginning with Eru Ilúvatar. That Eru Ilúvatar, let me pull up a picture for you so you can see visual. He is the one. He is the god of Tolkien's world. He is the one, the overarching god, the all-powerful, the all-good. He is all good. He is the god of Tolkien's world.
Is it God in Lord of the Rings?
There's a god in Lord of the Rings, yes.
Other than God?
Well, that is the god in Lord of the Rings. you what? You thought Lord of the Rings god was our god?
No.
Explain.
I don't know. So is Sauron the devil?
Okay, we're gonna get into that. So we're gonna get more into that later. So Eru Ilúvatar, that is the god. That is the capital G god of Tolkien's world.
Okay.
He is all good. He usually takes a back seat. Like, he usually just sits back and watches the world unfold. But he does interfere in certain ways, in very important ways, when he needs to. You know a few ways that Eru-Ilúvatar has actually interfered. For instance...
Couldn't he have just took the ring and burned it in the fire?
So he left that to the mortals.
Uh-huh.
Because he is... So it's really complicated. Okay, so...
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Eru-Ilúvatar. He is all good. And he usually takes a back seat, but he does interfere when he needs to. For instance, you know a very specific way he interfered. He brought Gandalf back to life. You know how Gandalf basically was vague about it? He was like, I was asleep for 1,000 years, and then I came back.
The White.
Yeah, I got sent back. He's the guy who sent him back. Mm-hmm. He went back, and Eru, I got a few more pictures of him. Eru-Ilúvatar was basically like, nah, you ain't finished yet, and brought him back to life. Another way that Eru has interfered with the mortal world is he made Gollum trip.
Trip?
The movies are different. In the movies, Frodo fights him for the ring. In the books, that doesn't happen. In the books, he's just jumping for joy and then trips and falls into the lava. And Eru is the one...
Lame.
Well, the reason is because Eru made him trip. Because someone wrote a letter to Tolkien asking him... He was basically... The fan was basically very upset that Frodo failed. He was like, are you telling me Frodo's a failure? And Tolkien said, no, Frodo took it as far as any mortal can. But simple mortals can never defeat the origin of evil, which the ring represents the origin of evil. You know, Tolkien was a devout Catholic, so we know his ideas on good and evil. He thought no mortal themselves could ever defeat evil by themselves. It takes that one, he capitalized the word one in the letter. It takes that one to interfere. So Frodo took it as far as he could, and then Eru-Ilúvatar is like, all right, trip, and then he fell into the lava.
Smeagol is the interference in the movie.
Well, you know how Gandalf says, I know Smeagol has a way, a part to play in this. Good or bad, I cannot tell, but I know he has a part to play. When he's talking to Frodo? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he knew that, because Gandalf is way different than you think he is. Gandalf is not just an old man. I'll tell you more about that later. No,
White.
So Gandalf is not just an old man who knows magic. Okay, I'll go over him later. So, I'm going to go over more of the beginning. So, in the beginning was Eru. Eru was...
Eru.
It sounds like...
Eru. Eru. I literally sound like the tiger at the zoo. Eru.
Well, he's mainly called Ilúvatar. But anyway, Eru-Ilúvatar, in the beginning was just Eru-Ilúvatar. Kind of like in our world, in the beginning was God, it was just Eru-Ilúvatar. Mm-hmm. And the first thing he created was the Ainur. Mm-hmm. The Ainur, a lot of people call them angels. They're not really angels. They have more free will than angels. And they are much more specialized. They each represent a different aspect of Eru-Ilúvatar's mind. For instance, his creativity and craftsmanship, that is represented in Aule, the Ainur called Aule. And all the Ainur are very different from one another, and there are not nearly as many as there are of angels as you would see them. So the Ainur are basically angels, but not angels. They're very different than angels. So this is basically the creation myth of Middle-earth, how it was made. He creates the Ainur, and the Ainur start singing songs of praise to him. And as they're singing the songs, Eru makes them aware of his vision of the world, right? Mm-hmm. So he basically shows them his vision of Earth, and they start singing beautiful songs of Earth. And when they do that, Eru takes their songs and crafts it into the world. They sing 3 different songs, and so he uses those to craft Arda. Arda is Earth. So Earth, Arda, same thing. Mm-hmm. Another name for Earth is Arda. And the only difference between our world and Arda is it's flat. Arda's flat Earth. Yeah, I know. So it's flatter, but that changed. Okay, we're gonna go to that later. But it's flat Earth. That's the difference between Earth and Arda is flat. There's a snake in the garden.
What garden?
Oh yeah, it's
the garden of Ithothinmentul.
It's a metaphor. You know how in our creation we know that there was a garden. There was a snake in the garden. Mm-hmm. It whispered into Eve's ear. Same thing happened to Tolkien's. Obviously, Tolkien's creation myth has a lot to do with Christianity, considering he was a Christian. And so there was a snake in the garden. Melkor. Here's a picture.
That's cool.
Yeah, here's another picture of him. So Melkor.
Wait, no, go back. That's Sauron.
No, that's not. That's Melkor.
No, it's not.
Sauron takes up his helmet.
No, it's not.
Sauron takes up his...
I will fight right now.
Sauron takes up his helmet and his weapon.
Mm-hmm. Wow, convenient. And his looks and his legs.
No, because that's Sauron. That's Sauron.
He's good looking.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
So this is Melkor. So Melkor is the one who he is Middle-earth's Satan. Mm-hmm. He literally is the exact same thing as Satan.
Him?
Yes, Melkor. So, you know how I said they're singing beautiful songs to Eru and he turns this into the world? Mm-hmm. Melkor is wondering why all the songs are about Eru Ilúvatar. You know how Satan's sin was pride? Mm-hmm. He was wondering why everyone was praising God and not himself. Yeah, same thing here. He was getting upset that everyone was just praising Eru Ilúvatar. So his song was called a discord. He sowed discord into his song to give himself more power when the world was created. Eru knew this, but he continued it. They kept singing the songs, and eventually, after the third song, Melkor had a lot of power. And because of that, Melkor became this world's Satan. And here's an important, Melkor is the reason all of the evil races exist in Middle-earth. Melkor is the one who created the orcs, he created the trolls, he created the dragons, he created the warg, you know, those big wolf things. He created all those. This guy, he's the one who created all of it. Because in Tolkien's mind, evil cannot create. Evil cannot create anything. It can only corrupt. So when I say he created it, I don't mean he actually created it. He corrupted it.
Then why say create?
Because it's just a term. He made
just
them.
Just
say
corrupted them.
Well, if I said he corrupted the orcs, it makes it sound like he took the orcs and corrupted them, but that's not what he did. He created the orcs by corrupting elves.
I knew that.
Okay, but did you know this? Where did trolls come from?
The caves.
Incorrect. So he made trolls by corrupting the Ents.
Oh, the tree?
So he took he took the Ents and corrupted them and made trolls. He took the elves.
How did a tree turn into a troll?
Well, because trolls
have skin.
No, listen, trees are wood and trolls are rocks. You know, if they get in the sun, they become rocks.
Trolls are skin, and then they turn into a rock.
Yeah, but the rock. Well, I'm saying, see, like, if you think of, like, what's good in nature, it's trees. They're beautiful, they grow, they're natural. Rocks don't have life. They're, like, inanimate, gray, ugly, usually. And so, he just took trees and made rocks. So, he corrupted it. So, and the same way he corrupted elves and turned them into orcs. Then he corrupted wolves and turned them into wargs. So, wargs are just...
Big change.
After the world was created, the Ainur, the ones who descended to Arda, which is Earth, became known as the Valar. They became lowercase g gods. Lowercase g. Remember, Eru Ilúvatar is capital G in their world. And so, these lowercase g gods, which are the Valar, reign over different aspects of the world. You have the Valar over the water, the Valar over nature, the Valar over crafting and craftsmanship, over those things. And they live in a place called the Undying Lands, which is the place where they all go at the end of Lord of the Rings. They go to the homeland of the Valar, which is the Undying Lands. The reason the elves are there is because they seen the elves. They said, they're so beautiful and elegant and perfect. Let's invite them to live with us. And that's the reason a lot of elves live in the Undying Land, is because the Valar invited them to live with them. Now, another aspect is the elves were the firstborn of Eru Ilúvatar. After the world's created, Eru Ilúvatar wanted to make a race to inhabit it, and so he made the elves. Those are his firstborn. And then they went to live in the Undying Land because the Valar invited them there. Now, you may be wondering, where did dwarves come from? Well, dwarves are called the adopted children of Eru. They are not his creation. Remember Ale? How I told you Ale was the lowercase g god of craftsmanship and creativity? Well, whenever the world was still being created, Ale got very impatient. He was ready for life to begin, and he was just getting impatient. So he decided to help out Eru Ilúvatar, kind of, by trying to make the elves himself. But he didn't know what Eru was going to make. So his idea was kind of similar. 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, nose, mouth, ears. But he made them a lot shorter, a lot hairier, and a lot stockier. And these are the dwarves. But only Eru Ilúvatar can give the flame imperishable, which is life. Flame imperishable means life. Only Eru can give life. So Ale made these dwarves. They didn't have life. They just did everything Ale said, like robots. And Ale was like, destroy them. Eru was like, destroy them. And Ale lifted up his hammer to destroy his creation. And when he lifted up his hammer to destroy them, they cowered in fear. Eru noticed right then that they had being. They were more than just robots. And so he stopped Ale and said, they can become my adopted children, but they will not enter Arda until after my elves. So Eru said he would adopt the dwarves into his children, but they would come to Earth after elves. So that's why they're called the adopted sons of Eru Ilúvatar, because he didn't make them. So now, where we're at right now, we have the world, we have the lowercase g gods, capital G gods, elves, dwarves, Satan, the orcs, trolls, all that. Now, so we have the Valar, right? They're the lowercase g gods. Then they have their own servant, which are lower
Lower, weaker versions of the Ainur. You're rubbing your head because this is a lot. Okay, this is where it gets interesting.
What's wrong with just saying they came out of the womb?
Whose womb?
Their mothers.
At the beginning, it was just Eru.
Okay, it came out of his womb.
That's a very unnerving image. I don't want to think about that.
That's a way easier explanation.
Okay, so then we have the Maiar. The Maiar are the servants of the Valar.
Oh, yes.
You are aware of a very important Maiar. Boom, those are the Maiar. Mm-hmm. The Maiar are the wizards. Mm-hmm. They are lowercase, like double lowercase g gods. Demigods, they're demigods. Mm-hmm. So like, you have the Valar, which are lowercase g gods. They have servants, not really servants, but like people who help them. They're helpers.
Yeah, I know these.
Demigods.
My Saruman in front, he is not the coolest.
He was the leader. He was the leader of all of them before he got corrupted. So, Melkor. You know how I told you Melkor, when he corrupted elves, he got orcs. When he corrupted Ents, he got trolls. Mm-hmm. Guess what happens when he corrupts these guys? He gets Balrogs. That's what Balrogs are, is he took the Maiar and corrupted them and got Balrogs. That's what makes a certain scene a whole lot cooler when you realize Gandalf fighting the Balrog is two demigods fighting for the fate of the world. They are the same thing. The Balrog and Gandalf are the same creature. They are both Maiar. That's what makes it so much cooler to think it's two demigods fighting for the fate of the world, isn't it? That's gross.
That is crazy.
Good. Am I blowing your mind?
What?
Yeah, Gandalf is a demigod because he is a servant of the Valar. He's a Maiar. And Balrogs are Maiar who are corrupted by Melkor. And so the Balrog and Gandalf is literally two demigods fighting. And you're also aware of another corruption, but this one was a way more powerful Maiar. Sauron is also a Maiar. Sauron was a Maiar of a much higher status, closer to a Valar, and he's
juicy.
Yeah, he looks good there. When he was corrupted, he became Sauron, the greatest servant of Melkor. So after the world was created, there was a massive centuries-long war, hundreds-year-long war between Melkor and the forces of good. It was the Valar, the Elves, and the dwarves versus Melkor and all of his weird creations. This lasted centuries, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of the war, good guys won, of course. Melkor is taken to court in front of Eru Ilúvatar, and he says, "Be gone with him." And they sent Melkor into the abyss, which is basically hell. Melkor was sent to hell, and then his child, Sauron, his favorite child, took up the crown. Said, "I'll do what my father could not," and took his crown and his weapon, and he said, "I will now, I will do what my father could not." So Sauron isn't really the big bad. We always think of Sauron as the big bad because he's the big bad in the movies and all that, and the books. But he's not the, capital B big bad. Mm-hmm. That's Melkor. Mm-hmm. Sauron is just trying to finish what Melkor started and fails.
So he's not like the big A.
Yeah.
He's like,
oh my gosh, we're not getting into Pretty Little Liars.
He's like the Mona A.
Oh my goodness gracious. You're comparing Lord of the Rings to Pretty Little Liars.
I'm just trying to get a hold on this.
Okay, if that's the way you want to hold it.
In my language.
If that's the way you want to hold it in your mind. So you may be wondering, where do dragons come from? We don't know. We don't know. We know Melkor made them, but we don't know what they are.
Dragons.
He can't create. He can only corrupt. So he can't just tweak a lot of stuff and make a dragon. He has to corrupt something. So what people assume is he, like the warg, how he took wolves and corrupted them. He might have taken a serpent of some kind, corrupted it over and over again, because the dragons didn't originally have wings. Sorry, a lot of clicking.
Oh, it looks like an eagle.
Yep. That's actually one of the theories, is that he took the eagles, corrupted them, and got dragons.
Those are good, so
But it doesn't make sense because the first dragons didn't have wings and the eagles had wings. So you'd think if he corrupted the eagles, the first ones would have wings, but the first ones didn't have wings. This was the first dragon. They got wings later, so it's very confusing. We know for a fact that Melkor can take Maiar souls and put them into stuff. So a lot of people think he might have created like a body of a dragon, and then took a Maiar soul, which is a demigod soul, and put it into the dragon. Because the dragons.
What about Smaug?
Smaug's a dragon, yes. So how did he make the dragons? We don't know. So it's either he created the body. Because it can't be like a warg because they're intelligent. The only thing that have intelligence are things that have the flame imperishable. They have souls. Those are the only thing that can be intelligent. Mm-hmm. And dragons are intelligent. So it can't just be a corrupted lizard. It has to be something that is smart. So the assumption is he made the body, took a Maiar soul, put it into the dragon, and that's how we get dragons. So I've told you how all the races were created except for 2 of them, humans and hobbits. You may be wondering, I'm going to give you a multiple choice question. How were humans created? Let's make this a fun game. Were they created by... Calm down. Yes. Was they created by A, the offspring of a dwarf and an elf that fell in love in the first age? Dwarf and elf fell in love and they had a child, which was the first human, and that child went on. Was it B? No one knows except for Gandalf, Tom Bombadil, Sauron, and Edu. No one else knows. They just popped in the world one day. We don't know how. Was it the second born of Edu and he made them after the war had ended with Melkor? Or would it be D? D is they came from the Undying Lands and they were created by another one of the Valar. And Eru Ilúvatar gave them the flame imperishable after they sailed across. So no one knows except for a few people. Edu made them. They came from the Undying Lands, or the offspring of a dwarf and an elf that fell in love.
Not that one. Not that one.
Okay.
So it's not a dwarf and a human fell in love, because that would be Aragorn.
What?
Or like, not. Never mind.
Okay, what? That's okay.
You're
right. That's not that. It's not that. So no one knows except for Gandalf, Eru Ilúvatar, Tom Bombadil, and Sauron.
Not that one.
Okay, you got that one right as well. I thought that'd be good by getting you about the names.
No, not that one.
Was it the second born of Eru Ilúvatar, or did they come over from the Undying Lands and they were created by another Valar?
I want to say the first one.
Correct. They are the second born of Eru Ilúvatar.
I knew that.
Now, the humans have a gift that no other race have. Mm-hmm. The humans are actually Eru Ilúvatar's favorites. They are the favorite children of Eru Ilúvatar because he gave them a specific gift that he didn't give to the elves. You know what that is? It is called the gift of men. Do you know what the gift of men is?
Ooh.
Death.
Oh.
They die. That's the special gift. Literally, that's called the gift of men. Okay, so the gift of men is death. The reason why this is a gift is because it gave men much more ambition. Humans have more ambition because their life is limited. And he also gave them true free will. I don't really understand what that means because it really seems like dwarves and elves have free will, but they don't necessarily. Mm-hmm. The only beings that truly have innate full free will is humans, which it confuses me a little bit. But that's just how it is. Humans have free will more than any other race. And hobbits are just descendants of humans. Just the off.
I was gonna ask that.
Yeah, just like an offshoot, because Tolkien never tells us. Tolkien never told us where the hobbits come from, and people just assume they came from humans. Because we have no better answer than that. We literally have no better answer than they just came from humans, probably. And you gotta remember, at the end of the day, Arda becomes Earth, and so we only have humans now. So everything died. Everything died out. So Arda is like a fake.
When the rain died?
No, just eventually, over thousands of years.
Wait. The trees?
Over thousands of years.
The eagles?
Thousands of years. The dwarves? Thousands of years.
Why? Wouldn't they just have babies?
There is an end times in Middle-earth. It speaks that at the end of times, the world is going to be destroyed, and then he is going to remake it and inhabit it with the dwarves, elves, men, hobbits, and all that. And whenever anything dies that is good, which is dwarves, hobbits, elves, and men, their souls go to Eru. You know how Gandalf was like, white shores, when he was talking to Pippin about what happens after they die? They go to Eru. So when they die, they have their own heaven. So hobbits, when they die, they go to Eru. They all go to Eru. And so he's going to remake a new world, kind of like in Christianity. World gets destroyed, make a new Earth, inhabit it with humans.
That sounds fun.
And that's what happens. So a few more things to explain before we're out of here. Numenor. This is how Aragorn is old. He is not half elf like you said he was.
No, he's raised by the elves.
That's not why he's old.
Fruit.
Fladoodleberry. So the reason why he's old is because Numenor was the greatest human city of all time. They worshipped Eru. They're the only culture to actually worship Eru. Elves don't even worship Eru. They don't worship anyone. They don't have a religion. The elves don't have a religion. But the Numenorians did. They straight up worshipped Eru. Until they didn't. But when they did worship Eru, they were rewarded with long lives. Eru gave them a reward for their worship and gave them longer lives. So they lived much longer than normal humans. Until they fell to Melkor. And they decided to wage war. And when they did that, Eru was really mad. And he wiped out Numenor. He took the earth, which was flat, and turned it into a sphere. So that no one could go to the Undying Lands anymore. Except for the elves. And that's the reason the earth is circle. And Aragorn is a descendant of Numenor. So the king of Gondor is a Numenorian, and his descendants were all of his blood. That's the reason why Aragorn can only wield a sword. That's the reason they can only listen to Aragorn, is because he is a Numenorian. He is the last Numenorian, because the kings of Gondor were Numenorian. Anyone who is a king of Gondor is a Numenorian. So Aragorn is the only Numenorian. So he is the only true king. That's the reason he's 70 years old or 60 years old and still looks like he's 80 years old and still looks like he's 30.
You cannot be 80.
Yeah.
83 or something like that. He says 81 or something like that.
So, last few things. The movies omit a lot of important stuff like Tom Bombadil. Do you know who Tom Bombadil is?
No. Is this some kind of hobbit?
He is a very important character. And not too important, but he's in the Lord of the Rings books. He is a being that no one knows what he is. Not even Tolkien.
All in the books?
Yeah. And the Silmarillion. Tom Bombadil is not even Tolkien knows what he is. He's a character that is uncorrupted by the ring. The ring has no effect on him. He was around before the world was created by Edu. He's married to a river, except she has a human body. Frodo gives him the ring, and he does a magic trick with it, and then he gives it back to him. And then Gandalf, before he goes to the Undying Land, spends a long time talking to Tom Bombadil. The book says after the ring is destroyed, Gandalf goes to Tom Bombadil and talks to him for years and years and years, and then goes off to heaven, pretty much. Who's Tom Bombadil? We don't know. He sings a lot. He's jolly, always happy, big old beard, dances and sings. They say, hey, why don't we give the ring to Tom Bombadil to take to the Mount Doom? And Gandalf says, I think he'll lose it. He's like, I think he'll just lose it along the way.
Squirrel.
So not even Gandalf knows. No one knows who Tom Bombadil is. Not even Tolkien himself. That's all I have, other than like small stuff like Doran, which is like the original dwarf when they put him on Earth. So that's all my notes. That was a lot. So do you know why Boromir fell to the corruption of the ring?
Because he's a weak human.
False. He was never meant to be part of the Fellowship.
What are you, Dwight? False.
He was never meant. Because in the movies, it's like, oh, they summoned this this meeting. That's not what happened in the books. In the books, everyone showed up on their own accord for different reasons. Everyone just kind of showed up at the same time for a different reason. It's kind of like an Edu Iluvatar created thing. One person, Boromir, had continuous dreams of being in the Fellowship, pretty much. Had continuous dreams of this. And so he went there. Except it wasn't Boromir. Faramir, his brother, is the one who had all the dreams of going there. Faramir was haunted with these dreams forever about being in the Fellowship. But his dad wouldn't let him go because he's not the favorite son. So eventually Boromir lied and was like, I had the dreams too, father. And he was like, you go then, my favorite son, you rock it.
Really?
And that's why Faramir isn't...
Faramir was supposed to, like...
Faramir was supposed to be in Boromir's place. In the movies, in the books, Faramir is not corrupted by the ring. When he's in the ring's place, it doesn't have an effect on him, like Aragorn. It didn't corrupt Aragorn like that. It had the same thing with Faramir. Faramir was not corrupted by the ring in the books.
That's the most interesting fact you laid out today.
So originally, Faramir was the one Eru had chosen to be in the Fellowship. But Boromir lied and said that he had the dream too.
That makes sense.
So yeah, because that's why in the books, Faramir isn't corrupted by the ring when he sees it. But Boromir was, because he wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah, he don't care about the ring later on. He's just like...
The movies change it to where it's like they were all called there because they have to fit everything. They already, even in the extended edition, they don't even have time to fit everything in. So they just had to rewrite stuff to fit it in. Okay, so what do you think of all the deep lore?
Good.
They can't see you nodding.
I'm going to need a test after this.
You're going to see you do a test.
I think the most interesting fact was the Boromir Faramir.
Because it has to do with the movies. All right. Anyways, thanks for listening to me.
Thanks for listening to me.
That doesn't make any... Okay.
I'm tired. What time is it?
It's 8:30.
Oh, gosh.
Anyways, thanks, guys. See ya.
See ya.